Hello lovely beans and welcome back to a new video. I hope this gratuitous kitty footage will function as a bit of an apology for me being MIA for so long. But I won't be keeping us too long at the beginning because we have a lot to get through. We have a German Lebkuchen recipe, we have Vanille Kipferl, and we have a little surprise at the end plus some decorating, so let's go. So, hello, hi, we're in my new kitchen, and for the first recipe we'll need 1 2/3 cups of brown sugar or demerara sugar, 2/3 cup of milk, a half cup of water, and a half cup of butter, which we all then take over to the stovetop and put that on high for a start, because it takes forever to heat up, and then we will melt that over a medium heat until all the butter is dissolved and the sugar as well. Now here I have 3 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of gingerbread spice mix, which is this lovely little thing that I've gotten from Germany from my mum. Has all the necessary ingredients in it, and a half teaspoon of salt and 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, just putting down a little towel here to protect my worktop, and here is our lovely liquid butter mixture, and I'm going to add the flour to that a bit at a time. Really, I think I did did I do 3 batches in total? Yeah, 3 batches in total, and just work that in until it's all incorporated and all nice and moist. Excuse the word. Taking this back to the stovetop, where I need to cook it essentially. You'll notice the consistency changes a little bit. It gets a little bit smoother and it sort of starts to pull away from the sides of the pot. So that's when you know it's done. I'll leave that there to cool. And while that's cooling off, I have here 110 grams of ground almonds, 280 grams of flour, and a little bit extra for work surface, 90 grams of powdered sugar and a pinch of salt, and in here I have 200 grams of soft butter, 1 egg yolk, and I will now still add the insides of 1 vanilla bean. Now the vanilla bean is a tricky little thing. These were actually quite dry, so it was a bit of a wrestle to get the insides of the vanilla pod out there, but this is so worth it. That makes this recipe rather expensive, but look at that gorgeous vanilla-ness. Yeah, it looks quite odd when you're not used to it, but yeah, like I said, vanilla bean for this recipe, absolutely worth it. These are Vanille Kipferl, by the way, so what we're going to do now is mix up all the dry ingredients, and you can actually see the powdered sugar poof off into the side there. And the butter is supposed to be soft for this recipe. Now, I had left the butter out of the fridge overnight at room temperature, but since it is quite cold at the moment and the heating isn't on terribly high, it was quite hard. So I started off using the wooden spoon to mix that all up and kind of mash it a little smaller, but I ended up using my hands to actually get in there and get the butter to do what it's supposed to do, and you're supposed to end up with a smooth dough. Now, I was very, very conscious that I didn't want to overwork the present gluten, so I probably didn't knead the dough well enough, because it was, as you see, still quite crummy. I probably should have kneaded it a little bit more here. But yeah, it was still quite crummy, so I'm now going to divide these into quarters to roll up and put in the fridge overnight to cool. And as we are going to see in a moment, the first little dough ball that I'm going to form here, see it's slightly falling apart due to the not having kneaded properly. Like I said, usually you would have like nice soft goopy butter to do this kind of thing with, but like I said, it was way too firm, so yeah, that was not ideal. But yeah, rolling these up into little sausages to go into the fridge overnight. Now, with this Lebkuchen dough, I now have the beaten egg of, the beaten white of the egg yolk that I used for the Vanille Kipferl, plus 2.5 tablespoons of rum, which I am now going to incorporate thoroughly as well. And here you don't actually have to be so careful about the gluten development in the flour, because you actually kind of want the gluten, you want it a little bit chewy, because that's what these Lebkuchen are supposed to be, so yeah, that's and do be cautious, this dough is supremely sticky, so there is that. Here are my little parcels ready to go into the fridge overnight. So yeah, I'm gonna do that, and while those cool, I am going to do some further decorating. Right, here we are. I dragged in some greenery from outside, and I've got this little willow prefabricated wreath base here. And for reasons beyond my understanding, I was completely unable to find wire. Like no garden wire, no craft wire, no nothing for, like, I don't know why. So I still had like 2 tiny little pieces of wire, so instead of making a whole wreath, I just decided to go for the like decoration-y sort of cluster at the top, and leave the rest without the greenery. Since this is going in the window, that's probably actually going to look fine. So yeah, here's the the first bit of wire was a shorter one, the second bit of wire, and like as you'll see in a moment, it was just enough, like only just enough, and like I think next year I'll probably have to go and do some preparations a bit ahead of time, namely finding some wire so I can actually go and make a full wreath. And now I'm just decorating with a few little sort of like bits and bobs down here, some little, I can't even remember what those were. I think they were on last year's Christmas crackers as decoration. And I'm just using those to pin some little Christmas baubles onto the wire. Again, I don't have any, onto the wreath. Again, I don't have any more wire, so I had to get a little bit creative. I finished this off here for the camera, but I did add some additional little things later on. And now for the German Adventskranz. I had originally had the thought of putting the candle straight onto the brass-colored tray, but my fire hazard aware sensibilities were like, no, you cannot put the greenery straight around the candles. That is probably not a good idea. You might accidentally burn down the house, and that would be very, very sad. So I put in a little silver tray in the middle, and I think it does work fine in terms of color. I did not actually have anything else that would have fit. But yeah, just adding again some bits and bobs, some little pine cones, some cinnamon sticks, and Christmas baubles, and a bit of star anise over there. So that is my little Adventskranz for this year. Yeah, this is a little candle from IKEA. It's actually really nicely scented, apple cinnamon. And again, just sort of like decorating a little bit, just sort of like rounding it out, because it sort of like does look a teeny bit boring, just the apple on the silver coloured star. So yeah, there's some more greenery, and yeah, I added a little Santa Claus figurine. I have no idea where I got that. It's like ages and ages ago. And yeah, so there is my little cinnamon apple. And here we are again with the overnight chilled dough parcels. And I'm starting off with the Vanille Kipferl, putting the rest back in the fridge so it doesn't sort of like warm up too much, which in hindsight probably wasn't really actually a problem because it's just pretty cool in the house. And again, this is the this is the one that was a bit crummy. So here I'm getting on the struggle bus to actually sort of, you know, get the dough to do what I want. I'm just portioning it out here and like call it like maybe 1.5 centimeters, which would be roughly around 1/4 inch, I think. 1/4 to 2/3 or so. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea when it inches. Well, yeah, just portioning it out here evenly, so we can make little half moons out of them, which I'm not entirely sure the word Kipferl where it comes from, but yeah, it's a very traditional Christmas thing. This I just put some flour in there to have an easier time to flour the work surface. Turns out I didn't actually need the work surface floured as much or at all, to be entirely honest, because yeah, the dough was so crummy, so I had to like really work it a lot in my hand and to like ended up not really needing the floured work surface. So there is the little half moon going on the baking tray. And going up the next. Again, working it thoroughly with my hands and fingers because again it's a bit crummy. Half moon number 2. And a little bit of an exceptional circumstance in this video. There is the boyfriend who was kind enough to help me with the moons. Otherwise it would have taken me so much longer. It was very nice of him to help. There was a very distinct difference between his and my moons. Mine were rather plump, whereas his had might have been his anime influence, quite pointy edges, as you can see in that. Well, there we go. And these are off to the oven to bake at 180 degrees Celsius convection, or 200 standard. I have them in for about 12 minutes. But then again, my oven is difficult. And yeah, another vanilla bean for vanilla sugar, because the moment those Vanille Kipferl come out of the oven, they will need to cool for like 2-3 minutes, and then they have to go in the sugar, kind of like, I don't know, are there beignets? Maybe they're called beignets, I'm not sure. But yeah, here we have the sugaring. Can I say sugaring? Sugaring production line, and there is again the man who has helped very kindly. Well, he'll reap much of the benefits of this. But yeah, it was very nice of him to help. And the recipe calls for 200 grams of sugar. I have probably about like 100 to 120 grams of sugar left over, so I'm just going to put all of that sugar, because it's full of vanilla bean. I'm going to put that into this little jar, so we can use it whenever we want to use it, because a lot of German baking recipes actually call for vanilla sugar, which I find quite interesting. They use vanilla sugar instead of vanilla essence. And I'm just sticking the leftover scraped out vanilla bean pods in there as well. Give it a bit of a shake up, and there you go. That can now sit in the cupboard and infuse. Right. Now, the Lebkuchen. Yes, here we go. This is more or less the recipe my mum used when we were kids. This is hella sticky, so make sure you flour everything you're using really, really well. You want to roll this out to about maybe half a centimeter, so 1/8 of an inch, I think. So you can just sort of get through it quite easily, because they do puff up in the oven quite a bit. And this little thing, I was unable to find any Christmas cookie cutter situations, so this was the only thing I could find, which has hearts and a clover leaf and a circle and a square and a star. So I wasn't going to complain, and yeah, if you've got sort of leftover dough, just squish that together and roll it out again. It will laminate a little differently, but there are worse things. Ah, yes, the one really, really Christmassy thing that I found was this little gingerbread man cookie cutter. I've never had a gingerbread man cookie cutter in my life, and I'm so happy I've got one now, and I'm really, really enjoying this gingerbread cookie cutter. Right, these have baked in the oven, again, same temperature, about 180 C, fan or around 200 for about 10-15 minutes. And they have to now cool off. And here they are, all cooled and lined up, so we can now decorate them. Using powdered sugar, about 3 tablespoons, with about a tablespoon of milk and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And that actually gave me the consistency that I was looking for. It wasn't too runny, it wasn't... Oh yeah, actually, I added a little bit of extra milk. Gave me the consistency I was looking for, and it wasn't too runny, it wasn't too sort of viscous, because I really was not about to mess around with royal icing. So this is the next best thing. And I'm just kind of because the decorating was a little bit of a whim, a little bit of a sort of last minute decision. So I kind of used what I had to hand. In this case, some leftover, I think these were for Halloween decoration situations, and a chopstick from the Chinese takeaway, and again some leftover sugar paste, for the outlines. And the outlining this actually hugely helped, because as you may be able to see, the surface of the cookies is relatively uneven, so they do tend to sort of slide to the side with the icing, which was relatively unhelpful, but yeah, well, like I said, the decorating technically wasn't really planned, so I'm actually quite pleased how it turned out. I was riding the struggle bus with this red paste, because that was one that was in the cupboard, and I don't know how old it was, but it was not easy to pipe. In hindsight, I could have probably just popped it in a hot water bath for a minute or two, and made my life so much easier, but like I said, hindsight. You just sort of I think it's called flooding the cookies once you've made the outline. And here's a bit of more decoration. Again, I found these in the back of the cupboard. But yeah, I've never really used hundreds and thousands and stuff, so this was quite fun. And I again used that red paste to make some, well, not red, but pinkish. Not red, but pinkish icing for the boots and little gloves of the gingerbread men. Oh, gingerbread people, I guess. And yeah, we have a little bit of a never there before situation. The boyfriend is making macaroons. And weighing out the sugar, I think we used about 250 grams of sugar. There we are with the vanilla sugar, because German recipes call for vanilla sugar. We don't use vanilla extract. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. And a pinch of salt. And sugar is going into 4 egg whites that he is vigorously beating into not stiff peaks, but into the ribbony stage of the firming up of the, yes, there we go, ribbony stage of the firming process. And now we're adding 250 grams of desiccated coconut. I need to be careful that I use the correct word there. And just mixing that in until just combined. Technically, because you don't want to sort of like whack all of the bubbles out of the egg white, because that is the only thing that gives any kind of rise to it. Now, making a little heaped teaspoonful, and just plopping that onto the oven tray. Here's the teaspooning again. It's kind of like sort of wipe off the sides a little bit so it's roundish. And there we go. And those were in the oven for a varying amount of time, but I think usually it's about 12 minutes at 180 degrees. Again, you can see the edges are a little bit burnt on some of those. Our oven really, really isn't cooperative. And now it's time for some Advent afternoon tea. Finished Christmas cookies. I hope you enjoyed this little Christmas decorating and baking excursion, and do let me know if you try any of the recipes yourself. And that is it from me for now. Wherever you are, have a lovely day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!